Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Kind of our first thing I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of one of those elephants in the room that we've covered, we've talked about, but I guess I kind of want an update to where everybody is with them. But we're going to talk shortly about what I like to call Charlotte Street Brewing, which is otherwise known as Founders. Of course, the short story for everyone else is that Founders were subject to a discrimination lawsuit, claimed innocence, blamed the victim, proclaimed victory, claimed to know the color of the person in the legal deposition, and then proclaimed there was no basis, and then settled a lawsuit. Founders is pretty much, with the settlement, has kind of swept the issue under the rug, at least in my opinion. Even coming out, with their own version of Black is Beautiful last year. For those of us who know and are actively, continually avoiding their beers, I'm gonna start with Harry on this one. Is there a place where they can earn forgiveness, or is it too late?
Hey man, you killing me, dog. As I was reading the show notes, I promised myself I wouldn't go first on this, that I was gonna let some other people, because I'm such a loudmouth about this. But since you went on and threw me in there, I guess there's really no tactful way for me to say it. I'm still Fuck Founders, man, and will be for the foreseeable future. I don't know, quite honestly, what the answer is in terms of what could bring me back. And there was some conversation on the page a couple of weeks ago. Admittedly, it is personal for me because I had a bit of an insight in terms of just how much they did push this away as if it were nothing. And then as a further, kind of disrespect for them to invite Bruise Brothers to the table to have a discussion about actually coming on the podcast and then ghosting us without another word, after you, even despite my several text messages to follow up. I'll be good if I never have another drop of Founders beer. I will be absolutely fine.
Okay. And Damon, I know that when the fallout happened from the deposition and everyone started to stop selling Founders, that 8 Degrees Plato had then stopped selling Founders. Now I've kind of been in and out of the store every now and then, but I haven't seen it on the shelves. So is it still the point where 8 Degrees is not selling Founders?
At this point, I believe there have been we sold through, I think, what we had, but it wasn't out and available at the moment. I don't believe we have brought anything else back in at this point. So we are, Tim, the owner, made had talked with all of us, and we all came to the decision kind of that, great strides had to be made before it could, be seen back in the store again.
And I guess, well, I would go to Kuma on this. To you, Kuma, is there a stride that you'd like to see that they would make? I mean, obviously they've done the Black is Beautiful, but it still feels, at least to me, empty-handed because they haven't done anything with the settlement or with the lawsuit. So, I mean, is there a stride that you see, or really the rest of you guys, if there's anything that you see that can make this better and make this more, a communicative place where we can start going back?
Well, I think
one thing that I think they can. Yeah. I'm sorry. One of the things I think is a stride is actually another slap in the face. This whole idea, these soul food pierogies that this local chef that they put on the menu at the Detroit Tap Room. There was an article on, I think it was on a CBS local affiliate, highlighting this and saying how this was an ode to Black History Month and highlighting this Black chef and so on and so forth. Yeah, by putting slave food inside of a pierogi. But anyway, my larger point is that this is highlighted in this article, but on the Founders page, where they're highlighting this chef, there is no mention of it being in any way in honor of Black History Month. It's just like, oh, this is something we got on the menu, done. So when I inquired about it relative to the article, of course, I didn't get a response, on the page. So, I mean, they really seem to be continuing to still be up to the same old, man, to me.
It kind of seems to be the moves that they're making moves that they think we want to see.
Yeah.
Right now I know that I've heard, because we've been doing some with Fermenta, we've been doing some stuff with, not with them, but they were I'm not going to get into it, but they're wanting to do some stuff with us. And basically, the problem is they had a 3-year plan, like a 10-point plan that they were trying to put out there, and they've made no progress on it. So they brought somebody in to enact all of these plans, but they're not really doing anything. So it's funny because we were kind of discussing stuff with Dr. J and a couple of the other sort of diversity, inclusion women and stuff like that. And she was saying acknowledgement, apology, action, and atonement. And the only thing they've done is the last two. They're putting out the beer, they're putting stuff on their website, but they haven't acknowledged that they did any wrongdoing, and they're not going to apologize. Which those two things, and here's the other thing, they're not going to, because their market share has gone up. I don't know if people know that, but when this discrimination lawsuit came out and they were like, we don't care, their market share shot up. So their base likes what they're doing. So why apologize?
Well, if you pay attention to the local beer pages, you see it. And even on their pages, they toss out buzzwords like virtue signaling and pandering to minorities and yada yada yada. So, we are a very small portion of their market share, obviously. But for me, whatever market share I used to be, I will no longer be. And I know that that's the case for a lot of folks I know.
Yeah. Well, quick, I want to jump back to Kuma, because I think Kuma had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, my bad, Kuma. I didn't mean to jump in on you, brother.
All good. Yeah, no, I think it's like a lot of what we've seen from them is a lot like Barb said, like throughout the entire lawsuit, as all that news was being revealed, there was never ever along the way an acknowledgement of wrongdoing. It was always like, well, yeah, we took care of that, or yeah, we addressed that, or actions were taken. It's just like, okay, but do you acknowledge that you have issues within your organization, within your culture? You acknowledge that those are to be worked on, and not just like, oh, we're like, we jumped through the HR hoops to make it okay. It just constantly reads like, until they acknowledge and recognize that there's truly a systemic issue within their organization, that everything that they do it just feels like pandering. And I mean, I'll pass all day IPA, a beer I used to love, and I'd buy a 15 case of that all the time. I pass all the time now, and I'm just like, I'm still not messing with it, just because until I feel like there's some genuine acknowledgement that like there was an issue, but instead there was just a legal and monetary settlement. So it's not enough.
For me, it's kind of like,
and I guess
Robert, before we get off this, I probably was one of the biggest Founders fans around, and through this issue, we tried to help Founders before it became public. And national news, Harry and I very much tried to give them some advice on curbing it before it got big. And just to give a clear example of they're doing nothing but pandering now. Last year, you may recall that we had a Black History Month sign up for the Charles Wright Museum at Eastern Market Brewing Company with the Masons. And we had an event down there, and it just so happens that Dave from Founders was at Eastern Market that evening. Now, Dave from Founders, who those who may not is caring about the Black community or Black involvement, when he was offered the opportunity to purchase a membership at the Charles Wright Museum of African American History for the low, low price of $25. He passed. And this was after he had just received that multi-million-dollar sale of the company. But in terms of just so.
Yeah. I think we may have like officially lost Wayne now. All right.
I can maybe give a
Figure
little bit of
internet-
insight on that because I'm familiar with that program. I mean, at the time there was a push to get,
Okay.
membership in the museum, so on and so forth. And it was right after the whole San Miguel piece. And if there were an opportunity and I were in that position and I had all of this, negative publicity in this way for $25, I would have said, give me 4. Give me 4 memberships. I'll keep one and I will give the other 3 to people, I'll give them away as prizes to our bartenders. I will make sure they get distributed within the founder's family. But these are things, for me, it's not the actual act, it's the lack of thought. Because that thought probably never crossed his mind. It probably never crossed his mind that, hey, we're kind of already in hot water. This is a very small gesture that could soothe some of that. But instead, it's,
Right.
no, we good. Because as Barb mentioned, the market share is fine. If they were hemorrhaging money because some accountant was doing something wrong with the books, they would fire them on the spot because it affects the bottom line. But whatever racism or other issues that are going on that are not affecting the bottom line, and in fact the bottom line is improving, then why would we address it? Is their attitude. And so again, that's what'll keep me from drinking their beer.
Yeah, and I think that, if you saw some of the news outlets and what happened with Boulevard and their discrimination and I believe it was more like a sexual assault lawsuit that hit with Boulevard, that they handled it where it was like kind of plausible deniability. And then they came back and said, you know what? No, we screwed up. So I think I kind of feel like if Founders went in that route and did that, we probably still wouldn't be in this situation.